Right. I think we'll get underway because I'm going to try very hard to stick to 2 hours because I find that after 2 hours, everybody's brain is completely full. Hi, Carl. So how we're going to run this afternoon is I am going to walk through making a song from start to finish using Band in a Box and Real Band. And you're welcome to follow along on your own computer now or later. I'm going to send out a recording of the session afterwards so you can go through it in your own time at your own pace. So you don't need to follow along exactly what I'm doing at the same time as I'm doing it. You can always go back and have a look. What I'm going to try and do, I've got quite a lot to get through. So I'm going to stop for questions after each section. After a major section of content, then I'm going to look through the questions. So maybe just make a note of the questions as we're going through that you have, jot them down, and then when I open it up to questions, then type it into the chat. I'm not going to open up the audio, so you're going to have to type in the chat. There is a little chat button on your screen, so make sure you can find that, so that if you have questions, type it into the chat. But I'm only going to check that chat at the end of each section. Okay, because otherwise I won't get through, and I don't want to, while I'm going through a section, stop and answer questions, because a lot of the time the questions get answered a little bit later on. So I will stop every 15 or 20 minutes and see what questions we have and then continue. So if I don't notice your question in the chat, just keep on typing it in, and when we stop for questions, I will notice it. I don't have my daughter. Last time I had my daughter helping me with the questions. She is studying for matric, so she can't make it today. So it's only me today. So I'm not going to look at the chat while we're busy doing the presentation, but keep typing it in the chat, and I will look at it at the end of each section. So there's going to be quite a lot that we're going to cover. We're going to start off in Band in a Box, and then we are going to move quite heavily into Real Band, which is where the majority of my workflow happens when I'm recording cover songs or original songs. Most of it happens in Real Band. So I use the two products side by side, and then the end stage is maybe exporting it into another DAW of your choice if you want to do something extra. So Real Band sits between Band in a Box and another DAW of your choice. So that's the workflow that I'm going to go through. Just be aware that there are as many different workflows using Band in a Box as there are people who use Band in a Box. So everybody does something a little bit differently. So I'm really just offering up my own workflow that I use, and in the hope that you can get something from it in developing your own workflow. And really the crux of my presentation is you don't need anything except for Band in a Box and Real Band to make a really nice song. You don't need anything else. If you've got those two tools, you don't need a Studio One and Pro Tools and whatever else. You can do everything inside Real Band and Band in a Box. But my hope is that you develop your own workflow from today. So I'm going to dive straight into into Band in a Box. We are going to be recording a song for Amazing Grace, because it's a public domain song, and it's a song that everybody knows and can relate to. So that's what we're going to be making today. And everybody see my screen? All happy? You can see the Band in a Box screen. Okay, so I will always set up my song chassis inside Band in a Box before I go anywhere else. And that involves a few steps. The first thing I'll do is I will generally, this is what you'll see the first time you open up Band in a Box. If you see this view, this is the newer view of that PG Music's brought out, where they've tried to give you more space on the chords section and less space for the buttons. But personally, I prefer the old-fashioned, which is this view. So that's the view that we're going to be working in. If you can't see that view, then just press those two buttons at the top there of the screen to switch between the different views. The first thing I will generally do when I'm making a song is I will unfold the song. So you see that you've got here a start at bar number 1 to bar 32 and 3 choruses. So what that's saying is 32 bars will repeat 3 times, which is fine if you've got a song that's got exactly the same structure all the way through, but generally I will unfold that. So I'll just make it only 1 chorus long, and I'll just put something, a big number in here to give myself lots of space to work with. That's the first thing I'll do, and it gives me all the space to work with then at that stage. I won't work with the number of repeating choruses because I like different things to happen in different spots in the song. Okay, so this particular song, Amazing Grace, I will attempt to put the chords in, but I'm going to use the key of G because I know that generally the key of G is what works for my voice. So everything I end up doing invariably ends up in G. So I'm going to start out with G. Okay, and then I'll go and find the chords on something like Ultimate Guitar, or if you've got a chord sheet or whatever, you can use that. But I use Ultimate Guitar to find all my chords. So I'll just go to Ultimate Guitar, type in Amazing Grace, and I'll pick the one with the most stars, which I can't see because of the screen. There we go. Okay, so there I've got some quite basic chords for Amazing Grace. I know that I generally want us to be in the key of G, so I'm going to transpose it into G. And there are the chords. So I'm just going to jot down those chords quickly. It's these particular chords: G, C, G, C, G, C, D, and then the same. G, C, G, C, and G, C, D, and then D7. Okay, so I go back to Band in a Box and I basically just type in those chords. But before I do that, I'm going to give myself a 2-bar introduction. Okay, I might go back and put a more fancy introduction in afterwards, but for now, I'm just going to say I want a 2-bar introduction. So I press bar 3 and it gives me a new part marker on bar 3. Okay, and I'll explain a little bit about part markers shortly. So I'm just going to type in the chords here. G, C, G, C, G, C, D, E. And then I can copy that row of chords because it is identical. So I just highlight them, Control C, go down and press Control V, get rid of that part marker. And then the last one, G, C, D, D7, D7. Okay. So those are the first 18 bars of my song. And say I wanted to make a song with 3 choruses, 3 Amazing Graces, and 2 verses. Then I'm just going to select those 18 bars. I'm just going to say Control C and go down to bar number 18. Press Control V and do that a few times. Control V, Control V. Okay, so that is 1, 2, 3, 4. And then I want it one more time. Control V again. So now I've got 3 choruses and 2 verses of Amazing Grace. And I can see that the song ends on bar 82. So I'll go back here and I'll change that to bar 82. Okay, so the song finishes, but what Band in a Box does is it gives you a 4-bar outro automatically. It will automatically give you that 4-bar outro. But what you have to be careful of is that this chord on bar 83 must be the number 1 chord. It must be the tonic. So it must be G. So make sure that that is G, and then it'll play a nice outro after it's played the D7 and the G. So I basically got the structure of my song, but what I want to do is I want to change these markers. So these blue markers are showing you that you've got a chorus going from bar 3 to bar 18, and then a verse from 19 to 34, etc. So if you right click on these blue bar, you see it brings up a couple of options here. You've got an A and you've got a B. So if I select the B there, it puts a green part marker there. Now what that green part marker is it's sometimes the instruments are a little bit busier on the green part markers as opposed to the blue part markers. The drums always get busier. So I will, as a rule, I will choose the green part markers for the choruses and the blue part markers for the verses. And you will hear it when we play the song, that the drums get busier in the green part markers. Okay, so we've got in this song, we've got a 2-bar intro, and then we've got 18 bars of the first chorus, then we've got a verse, and then we've got another chorus. So I'm going to change that to a green marker. Okay, and then we've got another bars of another verse, and then the last chorus here, make that a green bar. So that is basically the layout of the song in terms of typing in the chords and the key that I've done there. Okay. The next thing I will do is I will go and select a style for this song. And this is where the real power of Band in a Box comes in, is with the styles. So if you go into the style selector, just press clear first of all to get rid of any other selections that you had. And there's a couple of ways of finding a suitable style for your song. The first is if it's a familiar song, or if you've got the idea of a particular artist that you want it to sound like. So say you say, I want my song to sound like John Denver, Country Roads, or I want my song to sound like Alicia Keys, or whatever. You can type in the artist or the name of the song here, and it'll bring up a whole lot of suggestions in your version of Band in a Box for styles that will suit a cover of that particular song, or an original song, a sounds like song. So it's a really, really useful tool here. If you have a look at all the different artists and songs that they've got here. So if you just press, I don't know that song, but let's try The Air That I Breathe, the Hollies. If I just select that, it brings up the styles in your version of Band in a Box that will suit The Air That I Breathe, the Hollies. So I might type in Amazing Grace here. Let's see what we get and press enter. And let's press clear first, Amazing Grace, and then I press enter. Heavy Rock. Okay. And what it's got here is a couple of suggestions for me on what styles will suit this song. So there's an American traditional, a folk version, which is a waltz, and it's at 85 beats per minute. And then there's another Alan Jackson one, which is 75 beats per minute, also a waltz. And then there's this one, My Chains Are Gone, which is a normal time, so 4/4 time. But I know that I'm going to be doing a traditional one, so I just double click that one, and you see what has happened here. It's brought up a whole lot of styles that will suit a cover of a song in that style, okay? And they're all waltzes, and they're all around 85 beats per minute. So I can just... So I can just go through that list and audition them all and decide on what style I would like to make it. It does not have to be set in stone, because you're going to see how we're going to add new instruments, and we're going to change instruments and all that kind of stuff later. But it needs to be a starting point for you to use for the chassis of your song. So I'm just going to select this one. Okay, and you see what it's done here. It's put that style that I've selected. Now, be aware that the styles and the real tracks that you're going to get will depend on your version of Band in a Box that you've got installed. So if you've got the Pro version, you're only going to get, I think it's 100 different styles and 300 real tracks. In the Mega Pack, I think it's 500, and in the Ultra Pack, it's all 2,900 real tracks that you're getting. But those styles are going to be dependent on the version of Band in a Box that you've got. So you see what happened when I selected the style is it changed all these instruments. So those are the instruments that are made, that are part of this style that PG Music has said if I'm going to make a B cloud, slow, dramatic, Celtic waltz, these are the instruments, all right? And the fact that they are green means that they are real tracks. Now, real tracks are real musicians that Band in a Box has gone out and got recorded at least 2 bars of these people playing their instruments, and then it transposes the instruments and stretches them to match your own song. So those are real tracks, they're not MIDI. So hopefully we might have time to talk about MIDI, but for the moment we're going to just deal with real tracks, which is the real quality of Band in a Box, and it's the real strength of Band in a Box. When you're buying Band in a Box, you are buying all these real tracks. Okay, so right now I've basically got the bones of my song in Band in a Box, and if I play it, you might hear this timing might be a bit off due to Zoom when I sing this, so don't worry about it too much. I don't like these chords very much. Anyway, I'm going to bring up a version of that of Amazing Grace that I did earlier, because I don't like those chords very much. Let me just transpose it into G. Okay. Right, I didn't type them in better. So this is a better version. Sorry, I didn't type in those chords correctly. So let's try this one. This is a version of Amazing Grace that I made in preparation for today's training. So let's just try this one. It's different chords. Okay, that's better. So now the first thing that I'll notice when singing this entire song all the way through is that the key is too low for me, for my voice. So I will just select a different key. Okay, so just literally just pull this down and select a different key. And before you leave Band in a Box, make sure you're 100% happy with a few things. There's a few things that you have to be 100% happy with before you leave Band in a Box. One is the key, that the song is in the right key for your voice. Okay, so sing all the way through the song and make sure you're happy with all the parts of the song. So if the bridge goes up a little bit, make sure you can reach all the high notes and the low notes. The key is in your wheelhouse. Okay, make sure that the beats per minute are correct. That is what you want. Generally, the beats per minute of the style must match the beats per minute of the song. So if you have a song that's 65 beats per minute, don't go and select a style that's 165 beats per minute, because it'll stretch the audio too much and it'll sound off. So the beats per minute of your style needs to be quite close to the beats per minute of your song. So make sure that your beats per minute are correct, that you've got more or less the style that you want. So this particular one is a swing, and it's a waltz. And make sure that your chords are all correct. Okay, so sing all the way through the song. Make sure that all your chords are correct before you move out of Band in a Box. So as I say, don't worry too much at this stage if you aren't happy with these instruments, because I'm going to show you inside Real Band how to swap instruments out so that you can get the song sounding exactly like you want. Okay, so I'm going to say that I'm happy with this, the chassis of the song in Band in a Box, and I'm going to save it, and it saves it as an SGU file. Okay, so the first thing you'll notice is that I haven't recorded any vocals at this stage. I've just got the instruments. That is an exercise that I'm going to do inside Real Band, not inside Band in a Box. Okay, so I'm going to close Band in a Box because I've basically finished with it. I will open up Real Band. So Real Band is a DAW that comes for free with your version of Band in a Box. Hopefully, I've only got Windows users here this afternoon. Last time I ran this course, I had a couple of Mac users, and they were very hacked off that they didn't have Real Band. So this is a free DAW that comes with your version of Band in a Box. So if you haven't opened Real Band, then I can strongly suggest you do that, because you're going to find that everything opens up for you once you start using this. And you can see immediately that it's got the tracks all laid out, okay, and it goes all the way up to track 48. So you have got at your disposal 48 different tracks that you can use to record vocals, to record harmonies, to put extra instruments in, or whatever you want to add to your song. So the first thing that you do is you open the SGU file. So just find the SGU, okay, and you just double click that SGU, and it will open it inside Real Band. The first time that you open it, it's going to take a little bit of time because it generates all those real tracks for you. And you're going to see now what's happening. It's busy generating it now, but it'll take quite a bit of time the first time. But then after you save it as an SEQ, which is a Real Band file, and then it's very quick too. My computer decided to restart. Go figure. Computers just decided to restart in the middle. But are we all back on now? Okay. Oh, okay. So let me share my screen. Okay. Oh dear. Yes. So I don't know what happened there. I think Windows just decided it was time to have a little nap. Right, so I'm just going to open up the SGU, the sequence file that I made in preparation for this training, so that I don't have to waste any more time. Okay, so as I say, the first time you come in and you open an SGU inside Real Band, it's going to take a few minutes because it has to generate all these real tracks. And the first thing that you'll notice when you've opened your SGU file, these top 8 tracks, they say BB bass, BB drums, BB piano, whatever, those are reserved for PG music. So just ignore these top 8 tracks, just ignore them. They are something to do with MIDI. I haven't figured it out yet, I don't know, but I just ignore those tracks, okay? Then the next tracks, let me just do this. Then you see the next tracks here are exactly the same as we had inside Band in a Box. So remember, inside Band in a Box, we had, according to the style that we had selected, we had a bass, drums, a piano, guitar, and strings. And what it's done is it's generated those tracks according to your chords that you typed in, and it's laid it out like a normal DAW, like a normal digital audio interface like Audacity and Logic Pro and all that kind of thing. These are WAV files, they're just audio files, so it's generated those. If you go, I'm just going to turn my pointer focus on. If you look at the top here, if you press this button called Chords, okay, you see what you get here. This is the real strength of Real Band. These are the chords that you typed into Band in a Box. They're available inside Real Band as well. Those exact chords that I typed in are available here, and I can make changes to the chords inside here. There's no other DAW that you work with that is going to give you this level of integration between Band in a Box and the DAW. That you can't see the chords and you can't generate tracks and things like that. Whereas with Real Band, you can generate tracks. So you see, you've got here these 5 instruments. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 instruments. No, how many? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Then you've got a whole lot of tracks below there that you can record your vocals in, and you can do as many takes of your vocal as you want. So what I did before today's session is I recorded my vocal, so I wouldn't have to do it in today's session, but I just recorded my vocal to this backing track that I'd done. In order to do that, just find your first empty track, right click, make sure that it's mono, okay, because a vocal signal is mono, and you only really want to use a stereo signal when you've got things like a piano where you've got a left hand and a right hand. The rest of the time, the vocals are in mono already. So just right click, make sure that it's mono, okay? And once you set up your audio interface and everything, you basically just press record. Amazing grace. Okay. Go back there, press record, and just start singing. And you will see here the input is showing you. Amazing grace. Not working for me because I haven't got my audio interface plugged in, but you will see here your audio being recorded as you're singing, okay? And you will see this will go up and down in the green. It's going to be quite important that you keep your levels in the green. They can be kissing the yellow, but they must not be in the red, because that's where it's going to clip. And you will see that it doesn't, the audio that I've recorded here doesn't touch the top of the tracks. It's not chopped off at the top, okay, which means that I've recorded at quite a good level. Okay, so you might have a different setup in your audio setup. You might have an audio interface, or you might have a USB-B microphone, and you're going to have to make sure that your drivers and things are set up so that you can record inside RealBand. If you go to Options, Preferences, you go to Audio, you can set up your driver, okay? So I've got a Focusrite audio interface, and I will set it up to be the Focusrite audio interface, okay? This is what I use to record with. It's a, I don't know what it is, it's a Rode microphone and a Focusrite audio interface. So I've got my Rode microphone plugged straight into my audio interface, and then my audio interface plugged straight into my computer, and it uses ASO drivers. But that setup is going to really depend on your particular setup that you've got for recording vocals. It might be different to mine. Okay, so if anyone's got trouble with their setup, just drop me an email, and hopefully I can help guide you through in your particular case and how to set up your setup so you can record. So I have recorded a vocal earlier today. It's like those cooking shows where you say, here's one that I did earlier. And I recorded it. Oh my God. I think I know why it is. It's because I changed the audio interface. Sorry, I'm going to just change it back. Sorry. Because I changed the audio interface. I'm just going to change that back because I haven't got that setup. Audio, I mean, the setups in audio are tricky. They really are. Okay, let's just close that. Open up again. I think it's because I changed the you see there that I opened an SEQ file. So the SEQ file is the native files for RealBand. So where you see a .sgu, it's a band in a box file, and where you see an SEQ, it's a RealBand file. Amazing grace, how sweet the sound that saved. So this track is where I've recorded my vocal into. But generally, the first thing that I will do after I've recorded my lead vocal, is I will try and edit it to get rid of background noises and to reduce breath sounds inside RealBand. So in order to do that, you just double click on the track and you see what it's done here. It's blown up the size of the track so you can see it. And if you drill right down, you can actually see where there's noises. Okay, there, I don't know what that is, but I can just highlight it, press delete, and it's gone. Okay, so if there's a dog barking here or a doorbell ringing, you can go in and you can edit it, fine edit it, and get rid of those unwanted sound. That is a breath noise. Okay, so I might want to delete that breath noise completely. So maybe I've done some smacking of my lips or whatever, and I might want to just delete those. Okay, so let's just go through it. Sometimes I might want to leave the breath noises in a vocal recording because I find that it makes it much more natural sounding. So sometimes if you remove all the breath noises in a recording, it sounds very artificial. I don't know if you are aware of that. So sometimes I might just reduce the volume of a breath noise. So to do that, I'll just highlight it, right-click it, and then go into audio effects, say gain change, and then take it down by 10 decibels or whatever. So to reduce the sound of that thing. You see there? Hasn't got rid of it completely, but it's reduced it. So I will go through the entire vocal. There's quite a heavy breath noise. Okay, let's just hear it. Couldn't really hear it. It was too quick. Let's see if we can hear it. See if I can hear it. I think I was quite good in this one. I didn't take huge breaths. But I know from experience what they look like, and I know that that's a breath noise, okay? So I might highlight it, right-click, go into audio effects, gain change, -10, and then it'll reduce that breath noise, or maybe I might delete it completely. And I'll go through the entire lead vocal. There looks like something horrible. Okay, I might just want to get rid of that, whatever it is. But obviously, when you do this, you're gonna be listening to the vocal at the same time. Okay, probably on solo. So just solo it and then listen to it and see where you need to make edits. I once was lost, but now I'm found. What? So there's a bit of a breath noise that I maybe want to reduce. Right click, gain change, -10. And I'll do that all the way through the lead vocal. So now I've got my lead vocal. I've got the tracks from Band in a Box that Band in a Box generated. I've got my lead vocal. Now I want to go and do harmonies. But before I go into harmonies, I just want to check the chat and see if we've got any questions or if we've just got problems. No, it doesn't move the timer, EJ. So inside RealBand, you can literally just press delete. You can do Control-C, you can cut and paste, you can do anything. It's just like working with a WAV file. So it will take a bit of getting used to. But just double click on it and go in there and just start experimenting around. You can literally use it like you use any package, like Excel or whatever. So I could say I didn't like the way that I'd sung the second chorus. I could just copy my first chorus all the way into my second chorus. Sorry, I'm not sharing my screen. Let me just share my screen. So if I didn't like the way I'd sung the second chorus, I could just take the first chorus and just cut and paste it just by doing Control-C and then Control-V later on. You just can cut and paste it. It's a blank page. Literally that easy. Okay, so when I've done my lead vocal and I've edited it carefully and it sounds like I want it to sound like, I will use TC Helicon to generate harmonies. So in order to do that, just right-click the the track of my lead vocal, press select whole track, okay, and then go generate. Generate, and then say generate audio harmony using Power Tracks or BBW. Okay, select that one. Just be a little bit careful that if you go into that option, when Band in a Box is open, it will give you an error. I don't know how I found that out, but I found it out by accident. That option will give you an error, and you'll never be able to figure out why it's giving you that error. Just go and close Band in a Box before you go into that option. So you go into this generate audio harmonies, and you say harmonize to the chord symbols of the song. Because remember that Real Band is so tightly integrated with Band in a Box that it knows what chords you typed in your original Band in a Box session. It knows what those chords are. And you say harmonize to the chord symbols of the song, and you select which harmony you want. I generally do 1 up and 1 down, but you can go 2 up, 2 down, whatever you like. It's completely up to you, but I generally do 1 up and 1 down. Select 1 up and 1 down, then come across to here and type in multiple mono audio tracks, okay? And then type in the audio track that you want these harmonies to land up in. Okay, so what's this saying? It's going to generate harmonies, 1 up harmony and 1 down harmony for the entire lead vocal, which is in track number 14. It's going to put the results into multiple mono audio tracks, and it's going to start from track 17, which is the first blank track that I've got. Okay, so you press OK. Now this does take a little bit of time. So you see it's got the 1 up and the 1 down there. Don't worry too much about that at this stage, but what you need to do is change the dry voice level right down to infinity. Okay, what that is doing, that dry voice level, it's mixing the lead vocal in with the harmony. So what I'm trying to do is just get the harmony on its own. I don't want any of the lead vocal mixed in with the harmony because I want to mix them separately. So I want them on separate tracks. So you pick that dry voice level and you drag it down to infinity and you hit generate. This process does take a few seconds to generate the harmonies because it's doing quite a lot of work. So what it's doing is it's taking what I've sung here, my lead vocal that I've sung, it's using these chords that I typed in and it's generating a suitable harmony. And it's generating 1 up and 1 down, and it's going to put those generated harmonies in track number 17 and track number 18. Okay, so we just have to wait a few seconds because it does take a little while to generate. You can see here it's 80% done. And the reason I'm doing this is I find it a lot quicker to record harmonies in this way than trying to learn the harmonies to the songs. So I'm letting Band in a Box generate some harmonies for me, and then I'm going to sing along with what it generates. And that makes it a lot easier because I find that I can record 1 lead vocal and then I can straight away just go and record the harmonies straight off. It doesn't take me very long. It's quite an easy exercise. So it's busy just thinking still. It does take a little bit of time. I hope that it's not going to bang out on me again. Is this sounding useful, this harmonies bit? Because I know on my songs, a lot of people ask me, you know, how do I do my, okay, good. Okay. I'll get to that later, EJ, adjusting the time. On adjusting, okay, well, let me talk about that quickly now. Adjusting the time, I would not muck about with the tempo of the song in Real Band. The place to muck about with the tempo of the song is inside Band in a Box, which is why you have to be 100% happy with the chassis of your song inside Band in a Box before you go anywhere near Real Band. Okay, you've got to get your tempo and that sorted out inside Band in a Box because it's quite a mission inside Real Band to do that. Okay, So I'm going to share my screen again. I promise you, everybody, that when you start using Real Band, your life will change, because mine did. So you see here what it generated in track 17 is harmony number 1, and it generated on track number 18 harmony number 2. So if I just solo harmony number 1. Amazing grace, how sweet. Okay, you're not going to like the sound of that very much, I know, but don't worry about that. Let's listen to this one. Amazing grace. Okay. So what I will do now is I will mute my lead vocal, and I will record. I will just listen to this and record myself singing along to that. Okay, so I'll go to this. I'll make it as loud as I possibly can, okay, so that I can hear it. So just select the whole track, right click, go audio effects, gain change. I'll take it up 10 decibels, make it a bit louder, okay? And I will record myself singing that harmony. Amazing grace, how sweet the sound. So I'm using the harmonies that were generated by this TC Helicon software to record my harmonies. And then I'm going to can these generated harmonies. I'm not going to use them in my final song because, as you can hear, they sound quite robotic. Okay? When they're mixed in, they actually don't sound as bad as they do when you're soloing them. But I generally record my own harmonies. So I did that earlier in preparation, like those cook shows. And I just recorded one up and one down. And this is what the down one sounded like. Amazing grace, how sweet. And this is what the up sounded like. That saved a wretch like me. And then what you want to do once you've recorded your harmonies is you want to pan them either side, okay? You don't want them right in the middle, the harmonies. You want to make the field very broad. So you always want your lead vocal to be dead in the middle, all right? And then you want your harmonies to be spread out either side, right to the side of the main harmony. So I panned the low harmony far out to the left and the high harmony right out to the right. And this is what it sounded like after I've done the harmonies in that way. Amazing grace, how sweet the sound that saved a wretch like me. Does everybody hear those harmonies? Can you hear them? The high one tends to come through a little bit shriller, so it's easier to hear, but you can mess about with the levels here and to your own taste, you know, depending on how much you want them to come through. And what I'll generally do is I'll only, you know, put in harmonies in little bits of the song. So you don't want to put harmony throughout the whole of your song because otherwise it sounds very one-dimensional. So you want to build it up in specific areas of your song. So generally I put harmonies in the choruses and then sometimes in the bridges. And then sometimes I just pick out one or two words inside the verses where I put harmonies. But what you can do is just sing the harmonies all the way through with with the generated ones, and then you can just edit them. So say I didn't want them in this first chorus, I can just actually go here and just delete it. Delete that harmony. Okay, now it's gone. Make it a bit smaller so I can see the structure of the song. And I can delete it. So now I haven't got it in the first chorus, but I did record it in the other choruses. You can see that. You can see where you are in the song here by these top bar marks. You can see where you are. And you can also have a look at the chords as well. You can move around the song in the chords. So say I was just interested in the last chorus. I can go there and I say, okay, there's the last chorus. And then I can go back to the tracks and now I'm in the last chorus. So you can edit those. And if you decide that you want to keep some of these generated harmonies as well, you can just edit those to your taste. So say you didn't want it in your first chorus, just go and delete it. Okay. So that'll cover your lead vocal and your harmonies. Okay, remember your lead vocal you want dead down the middle, and your harmonies you want spread in the rest of the oral space. Then you come up to your instruments. So remember that these instruments have come from the style that I selected inside Band in a Box. Okay, so inside Band in a Box, I got my chassis sorted. I said I wanted it 85 beats per minute. I wanted it in the key of A, and my chords were these, and I wanted those styles. But say I didn't like this ukulele. I didn't like the ukulele. You can literally just either mute it if you want, or you can just delete it. So just right click, select whole track, and then just delete it. Now it's gone. The ukulele is gone. Say I didn't want this guitar, say I didn't want the drums to come in until the first verse. Okay, so I just go to the first part mark of the first verse. Remember that was bar 18. Press F8 and then delete it. Gone. So now my drums only start in bar 19. Say I wanted my bass to only start in the middle of this. I don't want the bass in the intro. I just want, what is this? A guitar and a pedal steel. I can just select the bass that I don't want and literally just delete it. Delete it. Okay? So now I've only got a guitar and a pedal steel. And the bass will only come in into bar 8. And you, so there comes the bass. So you can sculpture your song using your instruments by bringing in instruments and removing instruments. Okay. So say you decided now you want a cello in the last chorus of the song. I'm just going to insert a blank track. So I just right click. Edit, track. It does take a little bit of time to find your way around. Insert blank track. Okay. So now I've got a blank track between my instruments and my lead vocal. It says it's a MIDI track, so I'm just going to change it to audio. So now I want a cello. Now in the original style that I had programmed inside Band in a Box, there was no cello in that style. But in my final song, I wanted cello, and I wanted in the last chorus. Just right click on the track, select whole track, okay, and then go generate. Select a real track. So this is the real power of real band over other doors. Other doors can't do this. So this now will bring up the set of instruments that are in my version of Band in a Box. So I've got the Ultra Pack, so I've got all 2,900 instruments that came with my version of Band in a Box. You might have fewer if you've got the Pro or the Mega Pack. So I'm going to type in that I want a cello. Okay. And what I want to do here is I want to select a cello that is a waltz, because I don't really want to put a 4/4 timing instrument in with my track, which has been recorded as a waltz. It's going to sound a bit odd. So I'm going to type in cello and I'm going to say waltz. Okay, and it's going to give me here, and I can audition them. Okay, so this cello track is saying it wants to be at around about 100 beats per minute. This one is saying it wants to be at around 85 beats per minute. And it's also, this cello is a swing. It's recorded with a swing beat, which is just like, I don't know, I can't describe swing, but it's not like this. It's like moving around all over the place. So I don't know if you remember, but in Band in a Box, we had chosen a swing style. So you generally want to match that. So I would choose this cello, the second cello, as opposed to the first cello, because this one's at around about 85 beats per minute and it's a swing one. So I just press enter. Now this is where the magic happens. You see there it said generating real tracks, and it's generated this cello that was not even in the style. We didn't even have any mention of it in Band in a Box, according to these your chords. Okay, and it's now a blank canvas. You can do whatever you like with it. You can say, I don't want it in this section of the song. I only want it in that section of the song. And you can cut and paste and do whatever you like with that cello. Okay, so now I've got the cello coming in at bar 19, and you'll hear it now. All I found was blind, no cello here. Now I see 'twas grace that taught my heart. Now, the first thing that you're going to notice when you hear that cello is it's right on top of the vocal. Okay, when I say on top of the vocal, it's right in the middle of the sonic space. Okay, so if you imagine a sonic space, you've got forward and backwards, and you've got left and right. And the lead vocal is usually right in the middle. And I have put this cello also right in the middle. Okay, so it's on top of the lead vocal. So I need to move it over to one side so it's not right on top of the vocal. So I'll just move it off to the left, and you'll be able to hear a difference now. So it's not competing with the vocal, but what you have to do when you're doing this is you have to balance all the instruments. So I might have to balance it out with something else on the right-hand side. Okay, does that make sense? Because you don't want a track to be skewed off to one side. So all the instruments have to be balanced. Okay, so generally, when you're mixing a track, you want your bass to be in the middle, okay, because it's a different sound frequency than your vocal, because it's much lower. And you also want your drums to be in the middle, okay? And the reason that the drums are in the middle is that PG Music have already recorded this track in stereo. So it's already in stereo. You've got your toms on the one side and your snares on the other, and all that within that track itself. So this track itself has to be in the middle. But the other instruments need to be panned off to the left and the right to take up the entire sonic landscape without competing head on with your lead vocal. Okay. So another big trick for sculpting your song inside Band in a Box is using what I call stops and holds. So say I wanted the bass to just play one nice pluck, boing, boing. I didn't want the busy bass. I just wanted one last pluck with the whole of the first chorus, this whole bit here. First of all, I'm just going to regenerate my bass, because remember I deleted that bit. So I'm just going to regenerate it to get it back. Regenerate the bass. Okay, so Band in a Box, Real Band has very cleverly regenerated my bass according to my chords. So if I go into the chords here and I type in A, 1, 2, A, 1, 2, sorry, A, 1, 2, 3, A, 1, 2, 3, A, 1, 2, 3, A, 7, 1, 2, 3, E, 1, 2, 3. Those are to tell Real Band when it's generate nice a tacit. I'll show you what I mean. So I'm going to regenerate this bass section. I hit regenerate. Magic happens. You see what it's done here? It's put a nice one big bass note where I had those dots. You listen to it. so if I wanted this guitar to also have that same one nice tacit strum, I would do the same thing. I would just regenerate it. Regenerate the guitar. And you see what it's done here. It is the most amazing thing. So if you listen to this, it's completely changed the sound of the song. Amazing how sweet the sound that saved a wretch like. Okay, I didn't like what happened in bar number 6 there, so I'm going to go and see what happened there. Bar number 6. I don't know why I did that. Okay, so I'm just going to change that back to. Not like the sound of that at all. So I'm just going to regenerate bar number 6. Okay, and I'm going to regenerate it for that guitar as well. And you can do this throughout your whole song. You can put stops and holds in anywhere where you're trying to build tension in a song. So often you'll use that before you go into a chorus. You'll have a nice tacit on the guitars or the drums or whatever you choose. So now you'll hear those. Amazing grace, how sweet the sound that saved. And then they come in. I didn't like that first bass note. I don't know if anyone else didn't like it, but I'm just going to delete it. Okay, so now I've got rid of that first bass note. So that's how you build up the arrangement to be a little bit interesting, because you don't want all 5 instruments playing throughout the whole song, because then there's no variety. You want different instruments to come in and out of the song and create builds. You want to be able to shape your song in that way. Okay, I'm going to check the chat and see how we're doing. Yes, Steve, the 3 chord stops are exactly the same, but the difference is that you can just, inside Real Band, you can use those willy-nilly. So you can just generate the section of the song that you want those to be in, okay? Because you're generating little sections of the song where you highlight independently of all the others. Are you with me? So if I decided, remember what I did with this one, the A, I didn't like the way that it had that cutoff on bar 6. So I just regenerated bar 6. I went and changed bar 6 here. I took away the dots and I just regenerated that little section in bar 6 and put in those things. So you can use those much easier, and you can see what's going on. It's called stops and holds. The chord and then the 3 periods are called stops and holds. Viewing all tracks from viewing the one. So the 2 main views that I use are the tracks view and then the chords view. All right, so that changes from the tracks to the chords. And then if you want to zoom in on a particular track, you just double click it. And then you can zoom in and you can actually get rid of individual notes. So say I didn't like that note, I could just go cut it. Or I could regenerate it. If I didn't like what Band in a Box had generated on the first time, I could go and regenerate it. So it gives you a lot of control, the Real Band does. Okay, so I've talked a little bit about arranging your song inside Real Band, and I've talked about recording your vocals. I think there were some questions about recording vocals. I'll try and come back to those at the end because it is a complicated question and it does depend on your setup. So I will try and come back to that. Be aware that you can go on adding instruments right down to track 48. Yeah, I've got a whole lot of blank tracks that I can use inside Band in a Box, right up to 48 tracks. So you're not going to run out of creativity or instruments. You know, it's a complete palette for you to just go and add instruments and to experiment. You can try and add a waltz instrument to a 4/4 timing song, if you like. You can add a swing, a track that's recorded with a swing beat into a track that's recorded with a song that's recorded with an even beat. So there's no rules in this. There's absolutely no rules. And you will be able to hear what sounds good and what doesn't sound good when the timing's off. And you can just delete those instruments and choose another one. Okay. Because I've noticed that, I don't know how many of you have got the Ultra Pack, but the Ultra Pack comes with these vocal oohs and ahs. So if I wanted to have some backing vocals just in the first chorus, I'm just going to highlight the first chorus here. Okay. Go generate, select and generate a real track, show all, and I just filter on vocal. There's a whole lot of vocal oohs and ahs that come with the Ultra Pack, all sorts of ones. But I don't think there are any waltz ones. I didn't see any waltz ones. Let's just see, maybe they've got some now. No, that's not waltz. So in this one, I would just pick one that's got quite a close tempo. This one's 85, so let's just try that one. Not hearing anything. Doesn't matter, let's just select that one. And you see what it's going to do, it's going to generate that vocal ooh-ah track just in that section of the song that I've chosen to do. Amazing grace, how sweet the sound that saved a wretch like me. And you can go wild, you know. I don't think that one really matters that much that there wasn't a waltz track recorded. I would just use it quite happily. But yeah, you can go completely wild on that. All right, so what I'm going to talk about a little bit now is adding effects to your song to make it pop out. Because when you record your song, you're probably going to say, you're going to compare it to something that's on the radio, and you're going to say, it just doesn't sound right. What's the problem? Usually, the instruments are not generally the problem because they have been professionally recorded and mixed inside PG Music studios. So when you're selecting a whole style, they've already been, the levels have been set and the panning and everything has been set. So generally you're going to get the best recording that you can out of Band in a Box just by using real tracks. So the problem is not generally on the real tracks, although you might want to add some effects to real tracks, but I generally don't. I don't add any compression or any reverb or anything to the standard tracks that come with Band in a Box, but I do add some effects to my vocals. So the first effect that you're going to want to add is compression, which in this case is PG Dynamics. Okay. So what the PG Dynamics does is it squashes the performance, the vocal performance. So you know when you record your vocals, you've got some quite high notes and then some quiet notes, and you can't hear the quiet notes, and then the loud notes, you want to turn the volume down. Your vocals need to use compression to even out the vocal performance. So what compression does is it lifts up the low parts and it squashes down the high parts so that it's more even. And the key thing that you want to look at when you open this plugin is this threshold. So this is basically saying above the threshold of 12, I want to start compressing. So at 0, it's not going to do any compression. It's as if there's nothing happening on that track. It's as if I haven't got this plug-in, okay, at 0. Okay. So you can see here,
I once was
happening.
lost, but now
as I turn the threshold up, it's saying
was blind, but now I see.
Here, that's showing you the compression.
'Twas grace that taught my heart
now it's compressed
to fear, and grace my fear.
And now it's compressed it so much that you can't even hear it. You can hardly hear it. So you need to play around with this threshold
that grace
until the compressor is working. So you have to see this indicator going up and down, because then you can see that it's working. If it's not doing anything, then you might as well not even have the compressor on. I would leave the ratio in attack as it is. This auto gain output, you can switch that on and off. It's completely up to you. I generally switch it off and do my own adjusting of the gain. Doesn't really matter all that much to switch it off. But this threshold is what you're really going to be playing around.
Appear the hour I first believed. Amazing grace, how sweet the sound that saved.
Okay, and then the other plugin that I use is reverb. So now the trick with reverb is, this is what by default PG Music gives you, but there's far too much reverb. Listen.
Like me.
So you need to pick up this wet dry and take it right down, okay? So what you need to do with reverb is put it on so that you can just hear it, and then take it down so you can't hear it, but it's still on. Does that make sense? So start at 0, put it on until you can hear it, and then when you can hear it, take it 1 inch down so that you just can't hear it. Let's try that.
I once was lost, but now I'm found. Was blind, but now I see.
I think that's the level that I like it. So it's tiny. It's really tiny. So I will just play my song here, and I'll switch those. I'll switch these off. Bypass both of them, and you'll hear what the song sounds like.
Many dangers, toils, and snares.
So that's off.
I have already come. 'Tis grace hath brought me safe thus far, and grace will lead me home. Amazing.
Does everybody hear the difference? Does everybody hear the difference of what I've done when I've added that compression and reverb to those? Not really. I promise you, you will start hearing it once you start playing around with it, and then you'll never be able to do without it, because it really does bring your vocals forward and out in the mix. Okay. Sometimes you might want to add some compression and some reverb to the instruments that are generated by Band in a Box. But when you do, there's got to be a purpose for you doing it. So sometimes the drums might be a little bit too wishy-washy for your taste, and you can't hear them strong enough in the mix. You might want to put some compression on the drums. So let me hear what this sounds like with compression on these drums.
Grace, how sweet the sound that saved a wretch like me. I once was lost,
now the compression's off.
but now I'm found.
I don't like too much drums in my tracks, so I tend to leave the drums in the background. But some people don't like it when they hear a track that's got wishy-washy drums. So you can use your compression to bring your drums up in your mix rather than messing with the gain. Okay. So those are the two that I will use on every single track. And then you might want to do a little bit of sculpting on EQ. All right. Now, on EQ, it's really a matter of taste, and it's going to be playing around with it a lot to see what suits you and what suits your voice. What you're trying to do with EQ is get the other instruments out of the way of the lead vocal. So if you were just mixing a track with just instruments, and they were just band-in-a-box instruments, and say they came out of a band-in-a-box style, you wouldn't have to do any EQ, because the styles that PG Music have given you are already beautifully EQ'd. So the bass tracks and the drums and the guitars and the pianos and everything have already been EQ'd. These real tracks have already. But what you might want to do is get them out of the way of your lead vocal. Okay, you don't want them competing. You want space around your lead vocal. So you might want to just carve out a little bit of space where in the frequencies where your vocal is most prominent. So my vocal, I think, is around 1,000. You can use this. I'll show you. You can use this to see where your RTA, to see what frequency your vocal is in.
Once was lost, but now I'm found. Was blind, but now I see.
I don't know why that's not.
'Twas grace that taught.
I want to carve the other instruments down in the area where my vocal is. So I'm just going to use this 10-band EQ, and I'm just going to take it down in this range here. All the other instruments, that mid-range, just a little bit, 6 dBs. And I would definitely do this on the cello because it's got a lot in that range. I would also just carve out some EQ out of that cello. We use this 10-band EQ and take down these mids ones, 500, just by 6. And that'll give your vocal a lot more space in those frequencies. And then, yeah, you might want to do that on your harmonies as well. You might want to carve out that little EQ spot so that your vocal can shine through. So that really covers the effects that I'm going to use inside Real Band. And that really applies to if I'm going to just produce this song in Real Band only. I'm not using any other tools or anything like that. But you might want to export these tracks into your own DAW, into Logic Pro or Studio One or whatever other DAW you've got. And you're going to want to use the plugins that exist in that DAW to sculpt the song. So you would just go render and export, save all tracks to individual WAV files. Okay, and it's going to take all of these tracks and put them into WAV files, and you can literally just pick up those tracks and pop them into your DAW. So you'll see here. Give me a minute now, I'll get to it. So inside the folder where my SEQ file was, which is my Real Band file, it's created these amazing individual tracks. So now you can, if you're working with another DAW, you can pick those tracks up and you can pop them into your other DAW and you can go crazy. All right. So if you're not using another DAW and you're only using Real Band, then you're going to want to export this to an MP3 or a WAV. So you just go render, merge to audio track to stereo WAV file. Okay. And it'll not mix it down to a WAV file and you can send it off and do whatever. And what you're going to do is you're probably going to find that this WAV file that you've produced is not loud enough. Okay, that's the usual complaint. You listen to a commercial track and you say, my track is too soft. So you can just open up that WAV file. So let's just go File New. Open up that WAV file and you can so there is our final mix. Okay, you might want to get rid of this blank space, move this whole thing over. I usually do this process inside Audacity because I find it much easier than Real Band. I don't know if we've got any Audacity, but any audio editor will work for this. I want to get rid of the I'm just cutting and pasting it and getting rid of that first little bit. And I might want to make it louder. Okay, so you can make it louder by using the gain. There's a couple of ways of making it louder. You can just use this. Okay, remember to watch your indicators at the bottom of the screen here, that they must never go into the red. They can be kissing the yellow, but never go into the red. The other way of making your track louder, select the whole file and then apply some compression to the whole track. Okay. Press the whole track.
Amazing grace, how sweet the sound that saved a wretch like me.
See how much quieter that is.
I once was lost, but now I'm found, was blind.
Okay. Apply some compression to it. The other thing that you can do is you can increase the gain on the entire track. So you can right click it. Audio effects, gain change, take it up by whatever. Say you want to take it up by 5 decibels. Process. Okay, that looks a bit better.
But now.
So there are various ways of making it louder, but what you don't want to do is to chop off the top of your WAV files, okay, if you can possibly avoid it, because then you're going to get distortion. So I'm going to just check for questions, and then Audacity is great. Yes, I use Audacity. I'll show you exactly how I'm going to do that in Audacity. Draw an envelope, yes, it does, but it's very clunky, Steve, to draw envelopes inside Real Band. I prefer just to use the audio track, you know, to adjust the actual gain on the audio tracks rather than use envelopes. That's just the way I work, because I found the envelopes to be very clunky. And, you know, the thing is with Real Band, you can just generate instruments again, left and right. So if you make a mistake and it sounds terrible, you just regenerate and start again. So, okay, you can hear my voice, but not the music. Maybe I can hear a song. Okay. Maybe that was me. Oh dear, what I was doing, perhaps. Share screen. No. Now you can hear it. 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 No, can you not hear it now? Okay. All right. So what I want to do is just run through Audacity, how I will use Audacity to get my final track ready to release. I will use Audacity for that because I find it easier than real band. It's also a free tool, so it's really, you know, you don't pay anything for it. Audacity. So let me just check the chat here. Can't now. I hear everything fine. That's, you can hear my voice, but not the music. Yes, Gary, I think I agree with you that a mix is sometimes better by what you leave out than what you put in. So be careful, because there's sometimes a temptation inside Band in a Box, because you've got access to all these millions of different instruments, to just add all the different instruments. But don't do that. You know, make sure that every single instrument in your mix you can hear clearly, and there's a reason for each instrument, and then your mix will be clear. Couldn't hear the music after you fixed it. Oh dear. Okay, let's see how we go now. I'm just going to show you quickly how I would prepare my song for release using Audacity. And in this one, I'm going to use a plugin. But please be aware that you don't have to use this plugin because it costs money. And I don't want to promote you spending any more money, because really I think you need to get used to using what you've got. And then when you find you hit a bit of a blank wall and you want something more, then you can maybe look at investing in different plugins and different doors and all that kind of thing. But really, I can't stress enough that it's important just to really be comfortable with what you're at. And then when you start being dissatisfied, then look at the next thing. So what I will generally do is I will open this file that I made. This WAV file. And I'll get rid of the blank space at the start. Okay, so generally take the introduction down to about 5 seconds, give it a bit of a haircut, and check the end as well, that there's not a long space sticking out the end there. You need to get rid of that as well. So now you'll see that the volume on this is very, very low. All right. So the first thing you can do is just say effects, and you can amplify, or you can just press normalize. And what normalize will do is just bring everything up. Okay. So it's normalized it. It's made it all a little bit louder. Then what I will do is I will put in a plugin called Ozone. I don't know if any of you have got access to Ozone, but what Ozone is a plugin specifically for mastering your tracks. Okay, so you generally apply it to a WAV file, a complete WAV file, and that's got a whole lot of presets, and you can just decide which one you like the best. I generally use the pop, the Country Master Basic or the Country Master Pop. But you can listen to it and decide which one you like. I'll just show you what it does. I'll put the pop one on first. Apply that. Just share again. Share computer sounds. I'm just checking if it might be. Okay. Now you see it made it a lot louder. It made it a lot louder, and it chopped off some of the tops of these waves, which is fine because it's doing it, not you. Can you hear that difference? You hear the difference there? Can't hear the music now. No, nobody couldn't hear the music after I fixed it. Oh, goodness. I don't know what's going on there. Okay, No music either, no sound. Can you hear me speaking though? Can you hear me speaking? Yes, you can hear me speaking, but you can't hear the music. Okay, okay. All right. Don't worry too much about hearing the music from Audacity. I was just demonstrating Ozone. Ozone is a plugin that you can use on any DAW. You can use it inside RealBand as well. If you take another thing called JBridge, don't worry about it too much. It works fine in Audacity. It's a plugin that will master your tracks for you. So it'll bring up all the volumes and do whatever according to a whole bunch of presets that it gives you. So you don't have to try and fiddle around with EQ and compression to try and get your song to sound great. You just go through the presets and you find the one that works. Okay, so that's what Ozone is, but it's an expensive product. So I really don't want you to invest in expensive products that that you don't have access to. What I'm trying to promote is the fact that you can make really, really good music with what you've got, which is Band in a Box and RealBand. And then, Audacity, if you want to just give your song that final little modifications before you go live, which is a little haircut at the start. Make sure you get rid of the drum clicks if they are. Because, when you generate a track inside RealBand, the drum track will give you those clicks in. Make sure you get rid of those. Make sure you get rid of any tail that's left at the end of your track in Audacity. So yeah, that's what you do before you release it. And then you can also save it as an MP3 so that you can send it out by email. Yeah, it's an expensive track, so I don't want to talk too much about Ozone. I'm really just trying to focus on RealBand and Band in a Box. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to talk a little bit about the different versions of Band in a Box, because there's often some confusion about what do you get with Band in a Box. So I'm going to assume here that everybody is on the Windows version of Band in a Box. Am I right? Is anybody here on the Mac? All on the Windows? No Mac users? Windows. Okay, all right. So in the Windows version, you automatically get Band in a Box and RealBand. When you're purchasing your Band in a Box, what will differ between the various packages is the real tracks that you get. So essentially, that's what you're paying for. So the Pro version of Band in a Box, which is $100, only comes with 300 real tracks. So what they've done is they've selected the most popular real tracks, which is the jazz and the country and the pop. And they've selected the most used real tracks, and they've given it a package called the Pro. And it's only 15 gigs that you need to download to install the Pro. Then the Mega Pack is slightly up on the Pro. So you get 300 styles, but 500 real tracks. But again, they're all the real tracks that are the most popular. So if you are playing backing tracks and you're just wanting to learn an instrument or record the odd original song, but you don't particularly want to try out lots of different instruments, you just want bass and drums and a guitar and a piano, then the Mega Pack or the Pro Pack is all you're ever going to need. If you are a songwriter and you want to, yes, there are. If you really want to experiment with different styles and different tracks and different instruments, then the Ultra Pack is the way to go. But the problem with the Ultra Pack is it's very intimidating because it's 120 gigs of WAV files. So exactly like Gary says, sorry, they're not actually WAV files, they're compressed files that you get from PG Music. So when you buy your package from PG Music, you get compressed audio tracks of the real tracks. If you want uncompressed WAV files of the real tracks, you have to go for the audio file version of Band in a Box, which is something like $600 or something, I don't know, really expensive. And then you get uncompressed versions of your real tracks. Personally, I cannot tell the difference. So for me, it would be completely useless. But what I really enjoy is the Ultra Pack. I've got the Ultra Pack because it's got all 2,900 real tracks in it. So you can choose the vocal oohs and ahs and a koto and a, you know, a dobro and all sorts of instruments. You know, they've really got a wide variety of instruments that they've recorded, these artists. Can you go over the real tracks for selecting sections of the track? Yes, I will do that with pleasure. Are there any questions on, so just before I leave the versions of Band in a Box, if you start out with the Pro version and then you decide you like it and you want to upgrade to the Ultra Pack, it's actually the same price. It's actually $10 cheaper. It's no more expensive to do it that way. So often, you know, people will start with the Pro and then decide that they really like it and then upgrade to the Ultra Pack when they're really comfortable, because it's the Pro is less intimidating, the Pro version of the package. So I'm going to go over the key strokes for selecting the tracks. The other, I'm just going to share my screen. The other things that I had for talking about, if we had time, so you guys can decide on what you would like me to talk about. I thought about talking about Melodyne, which is also another external package for tuning your vocals. And then tips for installing Band in a Box and tips for performing with Band in a Box. And then also talking a little bit about MIDI and the difference between real tracks and MIDI. So those are the topics that I thought we could cover as well. So if you guys want to decide what you would like me to cover. So once I've got my tracks out, you just press F8 and F7. So F7 will start the selection, okay? And then I go to the end of where I want, and then I press F8, function F8. Oops, what happened there? F7, go to the end, sorry, and press F8. Okay, and then that selects the area of the track. F7 to start and F8 to finish the selection of the track. So then you can just press delete. Now it's gone, okay? And then the key clicks in this view are exactly the same. So you press F7 to start your selection, go to where you want to do it, and then F8, and then I can just delete it. So one of the things you want to be, if you start editing these tracks inside RealBand, is just knowing how to copy and paste. So say I wanted to copy and paste these bars from bar 10 to bar 18 to another spot in the song. So I go to bar 10 with my mouse, okay, press F7, and then go to bar 18, press F8, okay, Control C, right? Now you see it says copy from 19, bar 9, what's that, measure 9, bar 3. Control C, go down, okay, go down to the next track, and then press Control V. And then just take a note that you're pasting it back into the same spot. So I'm making sure that I'm pasting it back from bar 9, measure 3. Measure 9. What is that? I'm going blank. And then you can paste it there, right? So just Control C. Say I wanted to move it over by a couple of bars. Just press my mouse there, and then Control V will paste it. And it shows you where you're pasting it into, and you can change that. Does that help? It does take a bit of getting used to editing your way around RealBand using the keyboard rather than the mouse. Okay, the equipment topics sound good. All the way, keystrokes. When I started with RealBand, I had a $100 USB microphone called a Samsung Meteor, I think it was. And that was just a microphone that you just actually plug straight into your computer, okay? And you don't need anything else. And it should select your correct audio drives and all that kind of stuff to record your vocals. So if you haven't got equipment, start out with just a good quality USB microphone, because it's the simplest It's the simplest way to start recording your vocals and can give you surprisingly good results. I've used these headphones to even record and get surprisingly good results. What I use now is I use a Rode, it's a studio microphone. It was quite an expensive microphone. It was about 8,000 Rand, which is, what's that? About $400, I suppose, this microphone. But for years, I just used another ordinary, I don't know, it was Samsung, some cheap microphone that I used to use for performing live. I used a Scarlett Solo, okay, interface, which is very, very basic. It's just got one input for the microphone and one input for a guitar or another microphone, 2 instruments. So it's got, this is just a line in, and this is your normal, what are these called? Gone blank. Your microphone cable. And when you record it into Real Band using a Scarlett Solo, if you record into a stereo track, what it'll do is it'll put the microphone onto one side of the stereo track and the guitar onto the other stereo track. And then what you have to do is split that stereo track into 2 tracks so that you can mix it separately. Okay, does that make sense? If you've got 2 mono tracks, then it'll record the vocal into one mono track and then the guitar into another mono track. So they're already split when you press record. Am I making sense with the Scarlett Solo when you hit record? An XLR cable, yeah, an XLR. So that's, yeah. What do other people use for recording vocals? What else have you had? Carl, I would say Real Band is a must, even if you're just doing instrumental music, because it gives you so much more clarity. It gives you a bigger space to work on, and to be able to make changes to your instruments and be able to see your entire song from start to finish. So if I just tune in here, I can see the whole song before me. It's just laid out from end to end. I can see everything that's going on in the song. So even if you don't have vocals, if you just have the instrumentals, I would highly recommend getting used to using Real Band, because it's visual. And plus, you can just carry on adding, you can add instruments up to 48 tracks in Real Band. Whereas Band in a Box, you have to go into the bar settings to fiddle around with, and then you can't see what's going on in Band in a Box so well. Absolutely. So, you know, inside Band in a Box, there is a way of changing instruments on a particular track. But I far prefer using Real Band. So I would definitely think about using Real Band, because, yeah, it's much better. M Audio is also good, the extra tracks, okay. Installing Band in a Box. Yes, okay, so Real Band and VSTs. Real Band is a 32-bit application, which means that if you have a plugin that's only works on 64 bits, you have to buy something from PG Music called JBridge, okay? You buy JBridge and you run your plugins through this JBridge, and then you can use your 64-bit plugins in Real Band. So if you have a plugin that's only 64.
Oh, all right. It's just going to finish in about 20 minutes.
So you can you buy this, it's $10 called JBridge, and you can use any VSTs within Real Band. Okay, installing Band in a Box. The best thing, if you are ever battling, is to get hold of the online chat. They will guide you through, and they're very patient. I think they get a lot of questions around installing. If you have got enough space on your hard drive, then I can highly recommend installing it onto your hard drive. And the reason is, especially if you've got a laptop, you know, because then you haven't got an external drive that has to hang out the side of your laptop. You don't have to worry about the laptop, you know, the drive falling off the desk and getting ruined, and I've ruined hundreds of hard drives. If you can have enough space to install it on your hard drive, then that is definitely the best alternative, because then you've got everything that you need on your hard drive, on your computer's hard drive, and it's faster as well. You know, it'll generate all your backtracks faster. Everything will happen faster, especially if you've got an HDD drive. Everything will happen faster. So the only one that you can't install onto your hard drive is the audiophile version, which is the one with the uncompressed WAV files. So you can't install that on your hard drive. It's just too big. You have to leave that on an external drive. Okay, if you've got you can install it up to about 3 computers using the same serial number. Okay, and if you have problems, like I had endless problems one year, and I had about 5 or 6 computers, can't remember why, I phoned them and I said, look, all my other computers are buggered, I need to install it again. They accommodated me. So you can install it on 3 different computers. So if you've got a computer at work and at home and another one in your office, you can install it on all 3 at the same time. So the audio file comes with a 2 terabyte hard disk, so you run it from the hard drive, the audio file version. But the Ultra Pack takes up 120 gigs. So I actually updated the hard drive on my computer so that I could copy all 120 gigs onto my hard drive computer. Yeah. Okay. Yeah. The Ultra Pack is a huge thing, which is why I say to people, you know, maybe it's a better idea to get your feet wet with the Pro Pack before going out to the Ultra Pack, because then you know you really invested, that you really want to use this tool. So the Pro Pack is only 15 gigs, so that's fairly easy. Yeah. So when you buy the download version of the Ultra Pack and you register it on the website, PG Music will say, do you want to receive a hard drive? And you just pay a bit of extra for them to send it by UPS to you. But the cheapest way to buy the software is by download. This is the first year that I've actually downloaded the software myself, the Ultra Pack, because I have to pay 500 Rand for tax and duties to get the hard drive and all that kind of stuff. So for the first time, I also downloaded it. So I know a little bit about it. So I want to just talk a little bit about your options for performing with Band in a Box. Is there anybody here who performs with Band in a Box? Solo gigs or anything like that? You want to make backing tracks and take them to your gigs? Okay, so there's as many different ways of doing this as there are Band in a Box users. Everybody does it differently. But how I do it is I will export the finished track to an MP3. Okay, I'll make it an MP3. Okay, that's good. And then just copy that MP3 onto an MP3 player. So whether that's your phone or whether it's a computer or whatever it is, even a USB stick, because there's less things to go wrong at your digs. The only reason that you would want to have Band in a Box on your live setup is if you want to add lib, or you want to suddenly add another whole round to something, you know, that you hadn't planned to do that. Then you can do that with Band in a Box to extend the solo. So say you want to extend the solo in the middle of the song by 8 bars or something like that. I think there is a way of doing that in Band in a Box. I haven't done that. So I export it to an MP3, and I take that MP3 on my phone, and I plug my phone into the PA system, and I play the MP3 from there. The other disadvantage of doing it that way, there's another disadvantage, is that you can't transpose it on the fly. So if you suddenly have somebody come up to you and say, oh, I want to sing this song with you, but it's not in my key. If you just got the MP3, you can't transpose it. So that's another reason why you might want to take your whole laptop to a gig with Band in a Box already loaded and your backing tracks already all programmed in. If you're going to want to change the key on the fly, then you're definitely going to want to do that. What else about performing with Band in a Box? There is quite a nifty trick of being able to put lyrics in your Band in a Box songs as well. If you wanted to do that, so that you don't have to. I have got a video of how to do that if anybody's interested in learning how to do that. On song is great, yeah. Anything that syncs your MP3s with lyrics is fantastic. I make karaoke videos. So I have the chords and the lyrics scrolling in time with the backing track. So on song is also a great alternative for that. So what I want to do with the last 10 minutes, if there's no more questions on that, is I'm just going to talk a little bit about MIDI, because a lot of people still use MIDI and they still want to use MIDI for various reasons. So where real tracks are actual musicians that have recorded their instruments in a live studio, MIDI is computers ones and zeros. It's computer language that uses a synthesizer to generate sound for you. And because it uses a synthesizer, you can tell it to do whatever you like. You can make changes to individual notes, and you can make a flute sound like a banjo, and you can make a banjo sound like drums, because it's just computer notes and assigned to a synthesizer. So the note is written as your normal, your staff, your musical staff, and then you have a way of translating those into the sound that you hear coming out of your computer. So the quality of MIDI tracks will always depend on the quality of your synthesizer. If you don't have a good quality synthesizer, your MIDI tracks are going to sound like those horses on those merry-go-rounds. That's what they're going to sound like. And you're going to go, oh no, this is dreadful, I can't do this. But if you've got a really good synthesizer, you can make MIDI sound incredible. A lot of movie music is made out of MIDI. And the reason that that is done like that is because it's so versatile. So you have, I'll just show you, you have what they call MIDI styles. I'm just going to open my Amazing Grace from a little bit earlier, and I'm going to go and choose a MIDI style. So I'm going to clear this. Can you all see the screen? MIDI. So these are all the MIDI styles that come with my version of Band in a Box. And you can see immediately now that I selected a MIDI style, these tracks were no longer green anymore, they were yellow. So this particular style, NR Crag style or whatever, has got a MIDI bass, a MIDI piano, a MIDI guitar, and a MIDI banjo, but it's got real drums. And the reason that is because when PG Music started with this whole program, it was developed in the 1980s on a DOS computer, and it was all MIDI. There was no real tracks. There was none of that. And the first thing that they developed was real drums. So they went out and they got a whole lot of recordings of drummers, and they introduced real drums, because the common complaint about MIDI was that the drums sounded crap. So that was the first thing that they did. So that's why this style has got MIDI instruments, but real drums. So now if I play this, hopefully you can hear it. Are people hearing it? What's going on here? No, not hearing it. Oh, shit. I don't know why. Let me just try clicking that. Okay. Let's try this. Oh, sorry. Now you can hear it. Okay. So immediately you can hear the difference between real tracks and MIDI tracks. And I've got a really crappy synthesizer in my computer. I don't have a synthesizer. If I had a decent synthesizer, it might not sound so bad. All right, so that's Still can't. Oh, goodness, I'm sorry, Arthur. But sometimes MIDI can sound fantastic, especially if you use it in conjunction with real tracks. All right, so some MIDI instruments sound great. So things like strings sound fine. So you can use, often you can use MIDI strings in amongst your real tracks. If you can't find a real track that suits you, you might want to use MIDI strings. Or if there's a particular bass line that you want, maybe it's a riff of a well-known song, you might want to use a MIDI bass line for that, right? I use MIDI a lot for, I make backing tracks from a MIDI file, all right? I don't know if you want me to show you quickly how I do that in the last 5 minutes, how to make a backing track from a MIDI file. Yes, okay. All right, so what you do is you just open the MIDI file. Let me see if I can find one. You can download these MIDI files anywhere from the internet. So let's see what I've got. Start up. Birth of the Blues. Christmas Carols, the first look. Okay, I'll just open that one. It says it's the Christmas Carols. No idea what this MIDI file's like. But you can see I opened a standard MIDI file and it put the chords that were in the MIDI file here, right? And if I play it, you'll just see it's only got the one track. All the instruments are in one track. They're all in this piano track. That's all the instruments are. If I was to open that MIDI track, that MIDI file in RealBand, it would split all the MIDI tracks into multiple tracks. I'll just show you quickly. Is this making sense? Is this helping? Gary, yeah, let's just think about this. It will put it into the soloist track. I'm not sure. Not sure. I don't know if I can answer that one. Okay, let's just open this. So now you see I opened this MIDI file in RealBand and it put all of these MIDI tracks into its own separate tracks. Okay. So what you can do is you can just start generating real tracks the same way as I showed you before. You've got your chords here, right? So you can start putting in part markers or whatever, make the chord chart look like you want, and you can just start generating real tracks. So you can use a mixture of real tracks and MIDI tracks in the same song. I'm sorry. No. Oh dear, I'm so sorry, Arthur. So yeah, you can mix and match them, but you know, and just experiment. But definitely when you're starting out, until you can't do something that you really want to do with real tracks, I would always try and use real tracks first, because then you don't have to worry about the synthesizer sound of things, because they're already beautifully recorded and beautifully mixed and beautifully mastered. You know, you don't have to worry about anything else. So definitely start out just with real tracks before you start venturing into MIDI, because MIDI is a whole different kettle of fish, and you can go down the MIDI track rabbit hole and you can never come out, honestly. Does that make sense? I'm going to show you very, very quickly what I can do with Melodyne, because they are the other tool. That's a good question. You can convert to audio. Convert MIDI to real tracks. No, you can't do that. You can convert real tracks to MIDI. A lot of the real tracks have MIDI versions of them already. So you can get a MIDI version of a real track, but you can't get a real track version of a MIDI track. Does that make sense? Yeah, so I will use MIDI for melody lines, All right. So there's lots of different ways of doing that, and that's another whole rabbit hole as well. I use Melodyne quite often to convert an audio track into MIDI. Use Melodyne, but also BIAB has the ability to convert to MIDI. It's just not very accurate. You have to go and move notes around. You have to know how to use a MIDI editor. But the only way to get a melody line into a song is to use MIDI. And you can also type onto a MIDI keyboard to get your melody into the song. MGU, the difference between an SGU and an MGU. Bye-bye, Steve. An MGU has the melody in it. It's a MIDI melody, and an SGU does not have the melody in it. So if you see an MGU file, it's because it's got the melody in it, programmed in it in MIDI already. Yeah, so that's the difference between an MGU and an SGU. Melodyne. Can I talk a little bit about Melodyne quickly? Does people want to stay? I've been talking for 2 hours. I just feel like I owe you some because of the mess up with my. So Melodyne is a way of tuning your vocals. Everybody's vocals need tuning. Those vocals in the version of Amazing Grace that I made for you were not tuned, but they could have done with some tuning. So you might hear it and it sounds fine, but I can hear that it's not in tune. So I would use Melodyne to tune it just by a couple of cents. So if you're serious about making your vocals, taking it up to the next level, to professional level, then I would say Melodyne is a good investment. Let me just show you very, very quickly. Oh, I can't minimize it. Wonder if it's going to bring it up. Okay. Share screen. Let's see. So this is Melodyne. So in order to tune my vocal, I would just open up my version of Amazing Grace. Remember, I exported all my tracks, so I've got the lead vocal there. Okay, and you see what it does. It puts it on the grid at different notes. You can see already that some of them are out of tune. So all I do is I change the key to be A major. Am I sharing? Am I sharing? Change the key to be A major. Select the whole track. Okay, there's my vocal. Select the whole track. I'm going to say to about 90%, snap to A major, and that's it. Your vocal is now tuned. And what you can do is you can pick up individual notes and move them around. So I don't like that. That's wrong. That's the wrong note. So I can pick it up and I can move it. It needs to go up. So I'll just split it. There it goes. That's got to go up, I think. I can move that one. And I can tune my whole vocal like that. Did you hear that, or was I not sharing? Oh dear. Mixcraft for your DAW version of Melodyne comes with it. So start using it, Steve. And use screen share, not seeing it, not screen sharing. Okay. Let me just try again. Screen share. So what I would do, so I would import my vocal, set my key to be A major. Am I sharing now? Am I sharing now? No, still not. Share. Now I am. Now I am. Import my vocal. Change the key to A. Select the whole vocal. There we go. Tune it to about 90%. Snap to A major. And that's my tune vocal. And now you can play it and tune individual notes.
How sweet the sound.
So that one's wrong. So I can pick up that note and move it.
Sweet the sound that saved a wretch like me. I once was lost.
So definitely, you know, if you want to take your vocals up to a professional level, then Melodyne is a good investment. But if you must go for the cheapest version, which allows you one track to tune one track. I think it's $99. Is quite a good. It's a cool tool, and I personally think everybody's vocals need tuning. Even Christine Aguilera's vocals have to be tuned. So, you know, everybody who thinks that they sing perfectly in tune, I can guarantee you, there's some little sense that need to be moved around all over the place. Yeah. And if it comes free with your DAW, learn how to use it. There is a bit of a steep learning curve, but once you've learned it, it's worthwhile. What other questions do we have? Is everybody clear about where Band in a Box and Real Band and your other DAW fits in? Where you can use all of the tools that you've got in your toolbox. You're welcome to switch on your microphone if you want to say anything. Now I do. Good. That was the whole purpose of this exercise, is to open up Real Band for you. Because in my view, it's so underrated and underused, and it's hugely powerful. Okay, all right, Gary. All right. Yeah. You don't think you can use Real Band, Arthur? Is that right? You don't think you can use Real Band? It's worth trying. It's really worth trying. Just try it. Open it up. Just record. I will send out my version of Amazing Grace. Go and have a look at it. Explore it. Do your own thing with it. Couldn't before. Okay, so you can now. You can use Real Band. Go and use it and start making nice music, and send me your songs. I'm sorry about the screen sharing, sound sharing debacle. Yeah, it's worth the time investing to get to know it, because it opens up a whole new world for you once you start using Real Band. All right. Thank you very much, everybody. I will send out a recording of the show, so you can take a time, and I'll also send out my versions of Amazing Grace, and you can cut it and do whatever else you want to it. You can record your own versions to that backing track and see how you come along. Thank you, Larry. Thanks, everybody. All right. Bye-bye. Bye. Goodbye.
Did it?
Hey, was it worth it?
Yeah.
Oh,
Yeah, it was
good job, honey.
yeah, it was a good $10.
Geez.